We're going to answer some questions today. If you don't know what this is in reference to, I recently uploaded my 2023 Pedalboard run through or playthrough. And yeah, I know it was a little bit late in the year, but you know, it took me a while to put it together. What can I say? In that video, I promised that if there were interesting questions that you would ask me in the comment section below, that I would save some of those questions for a possible Q&A video directly related to the Pedalboard run through. So here we go. I got some good questions, a few that I had anticipated and a few that honestly caught me off guard a little bit, but they, forced me to think of my pedalboard in a little bit of a different way. And I think it's a good idea to answer these questions in a video as opposed to just responding to everyone in a comment section. So without further ado, this is my 2023 Pedalboard FAQ. Let's get it. Let's jump right into it with question number 1. It comes from Antonio here on YouTube, and he asks, why did you change the broken arrow for the Golden Boy? I think that when you change a pedal out like that, people automatically assume that you think one sounds better than the other, and that's just not the case. The real reason why I changed it out was because I was looking for something new. I wanted to be challenged in a different kind of way from a product that reacted differently. I've been using both styles of pedals for years on and off now, and this is one of the first times where I've chosen one over the other simply because of how the Jackson Audio pedals are made, where you don't necessarily need a few of them. You could honestly take care of everything you need with just one and a MIDI controller. So since I spent the majority of last year just using the broken arrow, I wanted to give the Golden Boy a shot. Question number 2 was actually just a comment. It's not a question, but it did trigger a question in my own head. It comes from Cyrus, and they said, love the tone, dude, especially the telly. And it made me realize I don't think that I properly introduced the guitar that I was going to be using in that video for the Pedalboard run through, and that's a hugely important piece of the puzzle here. The guitar was my Cruz Model T version 2. I'm going to put links to a bunch of my videos down below in the description box that relate to some of the questions that I'm answering, such as the full-blown video of me playing through the pedalboard and then also the video of me introducing that guitar. I knew the guitar would be an amazing guitar and it would probably be my main guitar as I designed it to be that way, but it truly has been a blessing to own it. It's just been a full fat sounding guitar. It's probably the fattest sounding guitar I have here in the studio, fatter than some of the humbucker stuff that I even have. So it's been great. I love it. And you guys know I love Telecasters. So to me, I choose the guitar that best represents my tone at that moment. And for sure, it's that guitar. This next one is kind of a lot, so I'm going to try to answer it to the best of my abilities, but they asked, what are your settings for the tape delay and the snapshots? It sounded so good. How can you incorporate the atmosphere into the Pedalboard? There's a lot going on there, and I'm going to link a few videos in the description box below where I break down some of my favorite tones and also how I hook up the atmosphere pedal. In a nutshell, when it comes to any delay, regardless of it being a tape delay, digital delay, or analog delay, I use the less volume method and more decay. So essentially lowering the mix of the effect and raising the feedback, how long the effect lasts. That creates more of a bed of ambience versus an effect that's getting in the way of your sound, which is why I think I could use these effects so much in my everyday tone because they're not as loud as you would think they are. Now the snapshots and my HX Stomp, that you're going to have to watch the video that I'll put in the description box below for you. All I'm really doing is raising the mix a little bit on every effect, such as delays and reverbs. And that's just allowing them to be louder and more present so that they can wash out my sound a little bit more. My normal sound, I don't want that so much, but when I really want to get ambient or use swells, I want it more because I do want the effect to be vibrant and in the way. I don't want to hear so much of my guitar. I want to hear more of the wash. So yeah, it's kind of the opposite with these snapshots, and that's how I set them up. So I'll put a link in the description box of the video that I made. It's been a while. It's kind of an old video now, a little while back, highlighting my snapshots. And then you asked how I incorporate the atmosphere pedal by Aerospace. I love that thing. And yes, it is not a guitar pedal, so it's kind of a challenge to incorporate it. And there are multiple ways you could do it. The way that I'm currently doing it right now is that I'm running it through the HX Stomp as if it were in the effects loop. But of course, you can't do a send and return because it's not a guitar pedal. So all you could do is a return. But thankfully, the HX Stomp reads, when you only put it in the return, it reads it as an aux in. And then you just put that effects loop box in your chain as an aux in only, and it essentially turns it into an aux in MP3 style input. And then you just have it parallel to your signal so that you could have your guitar sound existing, and it shares the output with that loop now. So it's a very, very simple setup, very easy to do, especially with the HX Stomp. This next comment, not necessarily a question, but it triggered something for me. It was from Master of Reality, and they said, pretty cool. I would probably want at least one texture or fuzz pedal, like a harmonic percolator, but that's just me. It's actually interesting that you said that because it's not just you. That's something that I considered as well. In fact, I did have a harmonic percolator on there for a second by Vader and Effects. I also tried out the very good amp company fuzz. Since it's a small pedal, I figured I could squeeze it in there. But ultimately what I found was that I wanted a funky pedal, something that made weird noises. And of course the Mood pedal fit that bill at the moment. It's not to say that it'll stay there forever, but it's just the pedal I chose for this year. And finally, this last question was by far the most interesting, and I'm totally willing to answer it. It comes from 7string64. They said, I can get each of those sounds on my Head Rush Prime. You can get all those sounds with just your HX Stomp. Why do you have all of the other redundant pedals? Now, I'm going to start by answering your question with a little bit of a controversial statement, and I hope that you don't get offended or anyone who's watching. But I personally don't agree that you can get the quality of sounds that I am achieving with my pedal board with just one product like the Head Rush Prime. Though I love all-in-one units, one thing that I find is that something is lacking in one way or the other. Even with the HX Stomp, I think that the amps are not as good as some other products that I've tried in the past. And what saves that pedal for me is the fact that you can load in external IRs. If it wasn't for that, and I've said this plenty of times before, the HX Stomp would not be on my pedal board. But even more importantly than that, I just think pedals are cool. I'm a fan of them and I like them, and I prefer tinkering with as many pedals that I can possibly tinker with as possible. It's not to say that that'll change. It's not to say that I'll never use a Head Rush. It just means that I prefer these sounds at the moment. And I think that they sound good personally. I want to say this, I'm not hating on the Head Rush. I just think that every product has their pros and cons, and what I'm trying to do is compensate for some of the cons that the Line 6 HX Stomp has. Well, that wraps up my 2023 Pedalboard FAQ. I hope I answered all of your questions. Again, I'm going to put videos to in detail answer some of the questions that some of you had in the description box below so that you can catch up on some of the content that I've made in the past. While you're down there checking out those links, you can also check out some of the other links that I have in the description box below. Comment on this video. Let me know your thoughts. If you have other questions regarding my pedal board, please do all the things that help the channel grow. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Please hit the bell notification icon so you get an alert every single time I upload a video. Thanks again for watching, and until next week.